Next we shall continue with the 6th unit, that is reproduction. And dear students, I want to stress you more and more, this is not the class, and I am telling you that according to your biology textbook so many points are present, but we are focusing because there is very less time for us to discuss and you need to prepare for the exam. We are focusing mainly on the important points where there is a chance to ask the questions. So when you see the textbook, don't feel that there is lot of matter in the book and something is left out while teaching. Yeah, some topics are left because which I feel that they are not important for the exam point of view. This is not the public examination that you are going to write, this is just only an entrance examination. So I want to make it very brief and easier, but still you must get the marks after reading this or after watching this video. So without wasting our time, I will continue with the next topic, that is about reproduction. So generally each and every organism will undergo the reproduction process. Not only human beings, even plants, microorganisms, birds, animals, and we the human beings, we all need to undergo the reproduction process. Why it is important is the main point. It is very important for us for the perpetuation and continuation of life. Suppose if the plants don't reproduce, we don't have the food to eat. If the animals does not reproduce, we also don't have the food to eat. At the same time, if human beings are not reproducing, some people will die. So everybody will die off. If in the newborn babies are not born, new population if you want to bring up, definitely the reproduction process is more and more important. That only we call it. To perpetuate means to double and continue the life race, we need the reproduction process. And reproduction is mainly of two types. One we call it as sexual reproduction and another we call it as asexual reproduction. So sexual reproduction, what is the difference between sexual and asexual? Let me tell you clearly. In sexual reproduction, two organisms will participate, male and female organism. So the gametes, the sex gametes from the male and female gametes together, they will fuse with one another and finally they will get fertilized. So that process we call it as sexual reproduction. So sexual reproduction involves in the fusion of gametes. Whereas asexual reproduction, only one parent, only one single organism or one single parent only will participate in the reproduction process. So we call it as asexual reproduction. And in asexual reproduction, the organisms, the newly formed organisms are like a Xerox copy of the parent. But in sexual reproduction, half of the number of chromosomes are being passed on to the new generation, and we can see some new characters also in them. Some characters from father and some characters from the mother, or some from male or some from female. So you don't find any, we can find Xerox, but most probably we also can see some new characters will be formed in the sexual reproduction. So I hope you understood the difference. Sexual reproduction is fusion of gametes. So two organisms will participate in the reproduction process. Whereas asexual reproduction means only single organism or single parent will participate in the reproduction process. Next comes vegetative propagation. So this comes under asexual reproduction. So vegetative propagation. Propagation means production or producing of the new things by the vegetative parts of a plant. We call them as vegetative propagation. So this vegetative propagation, again it is being divided into two types, natural and artificial. So in natural way, so these vegetative parts are mainly used: leaves, stem, roots. So in natural way of vegetative propagation, we use only these three. What are they? They are leaves, stem and roots. Whereas in artificial vegetative propagation, we must undergo these three things. One is cutting, next one is layering, and third one is grafting. Cutting is nothing but you take the stem of a plant, cut it and you put it in the soil, it will be bringing as a new plant there. And next layering. So layering is nothing but whenever the stem is touching the ground, new roots are formed here, you cut off the plant from there and a new plant will be formed. So that process we call it as a layering. And grafting. In grafting, whichever desirable characters you like, so whichever characters you think they are very important or which characters you feel you to develop, so we can cultivate the desirable characters in grafting. We take two different plants and attach them. The upper part is called the down part is called stalk and the upper part is called scion. Stalk and scion. In the stalk and scion, the new plant will come up there. So that process we call it as grafting. So whichever quality you like, so you want to develop the two qualities in a single plant, then we call it as grafting. And next, tissue culture. A good example is banana plantlets. So all the bananas are being produced with the help of tissue culture. So they will take a callus, a group of cells, we call them as callus. By taking that callus in tissue culture, they will produce more number of plants in a short time. So that is the benefit of tissue culture. We can produce many number of plants in a short time, so that culture we call it as a tissue culture. Next, fungi. So fungi will reproduce with the help of spore. So spore formation they will reproduce, so we call it as fungi, and all these are examples for asexual reproduction. So they are the examples for asexual reproduction. And next, fertilization. So if the male gamete gets fused up with the female gamete, we call that process as a fertilization. If the male gamete fuses with the female gamete, embryo is formed there. So after the process there, fusing up of the male gamete with the female gamete, that process we call it as a fertilization. And next, this fertilization may take either outside of the female body or inside of the female body. So if it is taking place inside the female body, we call it as internal fertilization. If it is taking outside the female body or mother, we call it as external fertilization. Inside the mother's womb or inside the female body, it is internal fertilization. It is taking place outside the body, then we call it as external fertilization. And next we have a male reproductive system. So male reproductive system of human beings. So a male reproductive system of human being contains a pair of testes, accessory glands and ducts. So what are they? The male reproductive system consists of a pair of testes, accessory glands as well as ducts. So here the testes will produce the spermatozoa or the sperms, and the testes produce the sperms as well as one more hormone called as testosterone. So in the previous video we have seen what are the functions of testosterone, so no need to discuss it now again, but remember testes will produce the male hormone called testosterone. Why I call it as male hormone? Because it is produced only in the males, it is not being produced in the females, and it also releases the spermatozoa and the sperms. These sperms only we call them as male sex gametes. Sperms are called as the male sex gametes. And next, the accessory glands. So accessory glands have one prostate gland and two Cowper's glands. Together we call them as accessory glands. So this accessory glands have got one prostate gland and two Cowper's gland, and two Cowper's glands will secrete a white color fluid called as semen. So this semen is like a nutritive fluid for the sperms. The sperms have to survive. So how they will survive? If the sperms have to survive, they need the nutrients. So the nutrients will be being supplied by the semen. So the semen we call it as a white color fluid. And next, it also has got vasa efferentia which are present there, and epididymis. In the epididymis the sperms will get stored up there, and vas deferens are the tubules which are the connection between the testis and the urinary bladder. So it is a connection between the testis and urinary bladder. And the sperm is very motile, and the lifespan of sperms is 48 to 72 hours. So 48 to 72 hours they can survive, and if it is reaching the female reproductive system, it will get fertilized with the ova and embryo is formed. If it is not reaching the female reproductive system, the sperms will get degenerate. I have drawn the shape of the sperm here, and this acrosome we call it as, it will penetrate into the ovary for fertilization process, and this is the head piece, and this is middle piece, and this is the tail. Tail mainly helps for swimming, and head contains the nucleus, and this part part we call it, this sharp edged part we call it as acrosome, and this is the sperm. So why we need sperm? So without the sperm there is no fertilization, and lifespan of these sperms is 48 to 72 hours, and mainly they are released by the testis. When the testis releases the sperms, they will go and stored up in the epididymis. So this is all about the male reproductive system, and next we shall continue with the female reproductive system.